Hello everyone, welcome back again. My name is Jesse, and in this wonderful tutorial, we're trying to see how to build a very simple machine learning web application with Streamlit. So the name of the app we're building is a gender classifier app, and then we'll be using Streamlit to build it. So this is how it works. So I'm just going to enter any name there. So let's say Johnny, right? And I click on predict. It's going to use the name Johnny to predict the particular gender, right? That is the basic idea behind this app. It's a very simple app. Perfect. So now I see that that's predicted it perfectly for us, right? So Johnny was classified as a male, right? Although the spelling was wrong, but it was able to identify that Johnny was classified as a male, give us this particular picture. Again, I can also try something different with something like a different name. So let's say Mary, right? And I click on predict. It's going to analyze it for us in a very simple and nice way, and then give us the correct prediction. Perfect. So now say Mary, right? Name Mary was classified as female, and give us the picture for a female. Very, very interesting and very, very nice. You can even see that we have a material icon here. So we'll be trying to see how to do this in this particular tutorial. So let's see how to do that. So we start from beginning. So I'm just going to close this, and then we'll start from it. So inside my folder, I have my models here, which is my gender vectorizer, as well as my naive Bayes model, right? Which we'll be using. And we have our images here. So let's create a file for that. So I'll come back to this place. So if I check from my folder here, we have our stuff here, right? Our directory and everything that we need. And then we need to create our file that we're working on. So touch our app.py. Perfect. So now we are done. So now let's start working on our app. So this is going to be our app.py file. Then the first thing we need is that you need to install Streamlit in case you don't have Streamlit on your system, right? Then after installing, just go with import Streamlit as st. Perfect. That's all you need. Now let's create our main function. So our main function is going to be something very simple. So let's call it gender classifier app, right? This is an ML app. Then you will just pass to see, then just close our app with if main. Perfect. So everything that we'll be doing will be going in between here and here, right? Perfect. So let's add some beautification to it. So st.title, which is going to be our gender classifier ML app, right? Something very simple and basic. Then st dot, let's say subheader with Streamlit. Streamlit is so cool, right? Perfect. So that is something basic I'll be doing. So now let's launch our app, run our app, and see what we have done so far. So it's going to be inside the location that we have our app.py file. Then we can run it as Streamlit run, then the name of our app, right? Or the name of our file. So we're going to open our port using your default browser, and then we'll be able to see our app at work. So this is going to be the URL. So I'm just going to copy this URL. By default, use your default browser, right? So I'll copy this URL, then I'll paste it here, right? Inside Chrome. Perfect. So now it's opening. So this is our default browser. We don't need this one. Let's use Chrome. Perfect. See that now our app is working perfectly as expected, right? Whatever we wrote here is being seen here. So that is nice. So now let's add some stuff to it. So let's add some markdown. So let's give it an HTML template, something simple for the design. And then this is going to be our simple design, right? So we're just going to add some beautification to it, which is going to be our div. Then we close our div with something very basic, right? So this is going to be our style, which is going to be something like background color. Let me expand this one. Background color, which is going to be, you can use any color. You can use blue, you can use any color that you want, but let's use tomato. Tomato is nice. Then we give a padding of, let's say 50 or 15 pixels. That's all that we need. Perfect. So let's broaden it so that I can see what I'm doing. Perfect. So here I'm just going to put in an h2 tag. H2 tag, right? So this is going to be an h2 tag. All this thing is not part of the machine learning. This is just to beautify our app. So it's going to call it as Streamlit ML app, right? Perfect. That's all that we need. Then we need to use Markdown to convert this one into Markdown. Using this one to convert what you have done into not just ATM, not into Markdown, but into HTML. Because if I pass this one here and I save it, now you're going to see that let's always run. You're going to see it's passed, right? Exactly the same thing, but we don't need this. We need to convert this one into something beautiful, right? So I'm just going to go with unsafe, allow HTML is equal to true. This is a very good argument that the Streamlit team did. Otherwise, people will exploit this particular feature. Very interesting. So now we have everything working as expected. So we see that now it is working, right? Perfect. So we need to refactor this one and bring it here. If I save it, now see that the color has come perfectly, right? Perfect. So if you can see from this, there's a simple mistake that we made, which is going to be how this one is. So if I save it now and then I go back, now I see that it's here. Perfect, right? So that is the basic idea behind it. So you can even make this one white if you want. So let's take off this so that it doesn't look tautology. Okay, so now let's move on. So this is something basic. Now let's move on and work with the machine learning part. So the first thing that we need is that we need to import our machine learning packages. We're going to be our ML packages. So we're using joblib to help us to import joblib. So joblib will allow us to be able to load our vectorizers as well as our model already. So let's first of all load our models. So we need our vectorizers to convert our text into vectors, into numbers, so that the ML model will be able to understand it. Then we also need our models, right? So for the vectorizers, we call it as gender CV using count vectorizer. That is what we call it. You can even call it gender vectorizer. Then I'm going to open a file. Then go to our models folder, which is referring to this place, right? You see that inside our models folder, we have our gender vectorizer model here, right? So that's what we'll be opening. So we are opening that folder. Then we are going to open the file called gender vectorizer.pickle, which is a format that we saved our file inside. Then you read it with the read byte. So that is all that we need. Perfect, right? So we are done with it. Now we can save it inside a different variable called gender CV for gender count vectorizer. Then we use joblib to open it, right? Which is going to be load. Then we're going to pass in our gender vectorizer file. So that's the basic idea of what you're going to do. So we do the same thing for our models, which is going to be the same thing. We're going to call it as, let's say, gender NV model, right, for naive based model. And then we're going to open our file, open our models. Then we pass in our particular model, which is going to be our naive based model, which is here, right? So this is the name of our file. So it is too long. So let me expand it and call it as naive base gender model, right? Something .pickle. Then we use read byte to do the same thing, because we are reading it as byte format. Then I'll just create another something. So let's go to gender CLF for classifier. Then we're going to use joblib dot load to load it, right? So gender and naive base model. So that is all we need, right? So we have been able to get that one perfectly working. Perfect. So that is the basic idea. So we'll be using these ones to do our vectorization and then our prediction. So I'm just going to create a function called predict gender. Then I'll pass in my data. Then here I'm just going to give my vectorizer that I had. It's going to be gender vect. Then I'll use my gender CV, which I loaded from top. Then I'll pass in, I'll go with our transform, the data that is coming. Then I will send it to array. You can send it to array or you can just leave it like that, but it's best you send it to array. Perfect. That's the basic idea. So whatever text I'm going to type will be converted to an array. Perfect. That is the basic stuff. Now the next thing we need to do that. Now since they're vectors, these are vectors. Now we need to be able to predict. So gender CV, no more gender CV, but we're using gender classifier to do our prediction, right? That is the basic idea. So predict, then we pass in our vector, then we're going to return our result. So that is the basic idea behind it. So now let's save it now, and then we're just going to create a place that the user can type stuff. So it's going to be our name st.test underscore input. Then I pass in my, so tell the user that enter name, right? So this is not going to change. but this is what's going to change. So I'll tell them to type here, right? Perfect. That's the basic stuff. Then I'm just going to give a button. So if my st.button is called to classify, you can call it predict if you want. If that's the case, then I want you to take that particular test that I entered there and do something with it. So let's first of all output the test. So let's call it as our name. So name, then dot our name, our format, use format. You can use f string if you want. Name dot title. So that is something very basic. So if I save it now, it's going to show everything as expected. Perfect. So see, like it's showing it here, right? So I can type in a name here. So if I type in a name like Jess and I click on classify, it's going to print the name here perfectly for us without any issues. Perfect. So now name Jesse has been typed here. So that is, you have been able to receive the data from the user, right? Now how do we make our prediction? That is where our functions are going to come. So you can also make a simple function with the creator st.cache to improve the speed of it, right? So that is something basic you can do. And then let's do our prediction. So from here we can just go with our prediction, or you can even call it result. Then later we'll call the other one. So result is called to our predict gender, our function. Then we're going to pass in our data, but we must pass in as an array, right? So it's going to be our name. Perfect. That is the basic idea. Now we can just say that if our result is equal to 0, if our result is equal to 0, then I want you to do give me female, right? So if our result, the first part of it, so we are converting whatever that is going to come from this place into a string. So if it's equal to 0, then prediction, right, is equal to female. You can spell female, right? Perfect. That is the basic idea. Then going to go with the next one, which is going to be else. If else our results, you can even go straight without that. That means that anything that is going to come, our result 0 is equal to 1. We can go without this one, right? And it's still going to work. We don't need this. It's going to be prediction is equal to is male. Perfect. So this is what the user is going to see. Very simple. And then we can just come here, then st.success, and just pass in our test that, let's say the name, then was, this name was classified as, then use f string, so dot format, then you pass in our name dot title to convert it to a title case. Then the last one is going to be our prediction. So let's save it now, and let's see what you have done so far. Right, so it's loading, detecting the changes. Perfect. So let's classify Jesse. Jesse is going to come as a female because mostly Jesse can be used for female also, except I make it as Jess. So Jesse was classified as female. Perfect, right? As I was saying. But if I make it as Jess and I click on classify, it's going to predict as male. Perfect. See now this is a male, right? Just moving the E. It's very, very intelligent. Okay. Now that is something basic we have done so far. Now let's see how to add some beautification to it. So the main idea is that we are just going to load our models, right? However you save it, as PKL, as job link format, and our vectorizers. Then we are going to create a function to transform our data into vectors. Then we're going to pass our vector into our prediction function, right? Our model to classify it. Then we're going to return it. That's the basic idea. Then we're going to find the means of receiving input from the user, then apply our function on it. That is the basic idea. Our app is complete. Now the next thing we need is that we need to be able to create the images, right? You need to add some beautification to it. So let's create a function at the top here, which is going to be for our images. So I'm going to call it as def our load our image, right? Load images. Then it's going to pass in the particular image that you want to do. So it's going to be our file name. So we can just call it as our image name or any name that you want. So let's call it image name. Perfect. Then I'll go straight away and then use image. So image is equal to image.open. So we are using pillow, so we're just going to go to the top here, and then from pale import image, right? So in case you are not subscribed to this channel, you can also subscribe, and then you can also check the links below for some interesting courses and some interesting resources to help you master machine learning as well as building your own web application. Okay, so now let's move on. Then I'm going to pass in my image name here, right? So image name, perfect. So that's all I need. Then the next thing is that I'm going to use st dot. So let's return st.image. I'm going to open the image, right? Now let's give it a width so that it doesn't become so big, of let's say 300. That's the basic idea, right? So we are returning the image that is being presented. So let's see an example. So from here, I can just come to this place and call it, let's say, our custom image. It's going to be, we are using the image that we have here. We realize that we have a female PNG and then male PNG, right? So that's the basic idea. So I'm just going to bring it as female.png, right? And then the second one is going to be our male C image. Our custom image is going to be our male.png. This is supposed to be a string. Perfect, right? So that's the basic idea. Perfect. Perfect. So now let's bring it here. So I'm just going to come down here, right, and go with our image, which is going to be our load, our image. Then I'm going to pass in our C image. Perfect. That's all that we need to do. So let's try it and see whether it's going to work. So it's going to analyze Jess, or let's use somebody's name. So I'll use a different name. So let's use some local name like Kofi, right? Kofi is a local Ghanaian name. So I can click on classify. Let's see whether it's able to classify Kofi as a male, right? Kofi is a male. So it is analyzing. Perfect. So Kofi was classified as a male, right? Wow, that's very, very intelligent. So it was able to give us the image. Now I can also use a different name like Katya, which is a Russian name, or Ukrainian name, which is a female name. And let's see whether it's able to classify it well for us. Perfect. So Katya was classified as a female and gave us the image. So that is something basic that we have done. So the other stuff you can also do, in case you also want to bring CSS, right? Instead of using an image, you want to use maybe a material design icon. You can also do that in a very simple way using the markdown. So let's see an example of how it is. So I'll do it in this format. I can create a function to do that, right? It's going to be, let's call it def.load CSS. I'm going to pass in my CSS stuff, right? Whatever it is. So CSS file. Then I'll use the normal markdown to do that. So it's going to be like a normal context to open. Then we're going to open our CSS file. CSS file as F. Can be any stuff as F. Then we're going to use st.markdown. Then we're going to pass in our markdown, right, which is going to be our style. Perfect. Then I'll pass in the remaining file, which is going to be, so let's call it a style. I'm closing it. Perfect. So that is something basic about this. So I'll pass in my file here, right, to load that particular file. Then .format. I'll pass in my CSS file. Then I'll need to use markdown. So let me expand it so that you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So expand it with our save allow is equal to true. Perfect. Perfect. But because we are opening the file, right, as an F, so you have to change this one, not the file itself, but the variable that you are storing inside. So it's going to be f.read. Perfect. So that is the basic idea, right? So that you're going to read it there. That is how to load a CSS. Now let's load an image. So it's going to be load our icons, right? Because this is a CSS for icons. And I'll pass in the icon name. So let's call it as a icon name, right? So remember, like, this is a string, right? But we need it as a variable, so we don't need this one. So that is something basic. So very, very simple, right? Then I'm just going to go with st.markdown, and I'll pass in my markdown, which is going to be our I class, then material. This code is I got this idea from one of the creators of Streamlit. Very interesting. Was very interesting. The guy is very smart. Okay, so then I'm just going to pass in my stuff, right? That is the basic idea. Then I'll close my eye. Okay, something very basic and something very simple and nice. Then I'm just going to use a normal dot format. You can use string if you want. Then I'll pass in my icon name. Something very simple. So the next thing is we need to allow HTML, which is going to be here. Perfect. So we are done. So we have a function to load our CSS file itself and a function to load our icon. So I can just bring it at the top here so we see what you have done. So I can just go with our load my CSS, then I pass in my CSS file, which was at icon.css. You can just download this one from the official materialized design icon, which is this icon.css, which I'm loading here. Then I can just go with load our image or icon. So whatever icon I want to do, I want to use a people's icon. So I save it now. Then let's go back and see what you have done. So it's running. So after some time, I'm going to show it because you are first loading the CSS file, which is this file here. Then you are going inside, voila. So now it has shown the image, right? The icon itself. So that's how to add icons to it using the markdown and a function. So the basic idea is that first of all, you're just going to import Streamlit. Then you import your other packages like joblib to load your models and your vectorizers. Then you just create your function to vectorize and then to predict. Then you create your input area where the user is going to type something, right? So that is the basic idea. So thank you for watching this tutorial. In case you have any question or contribution, you can just put inside the comment section below, and then please check the link below for some interesting materials to help you with machine learning as well as building your own custom web apps. Thank you and stay blessed.